Hey guys, today is a very special day for me because I am sitting down with my longtime teacher and mentor, Brent Graef, and his wife, Kris Graef. And together they run a halter starting operation out of their ranch in Canyon, Texas. They also teach a young horse handling class where you can handle unstarted or unhandled young horses. And Brent also has a clinic circuit that he does every year across the country. Brent is an incredible horseman. He's extremely humble and extremely kind, as you'll see in this interview. And Kris is also extremely talented with the young horses herself and an exceptional horsewoman as well. They are some of my favorite people. They're dear friends of mine, and I'm so honored that they are willing to sit on this interview with me. And I really hope you enjoy this one. Well, first of all, thank you both so much for being here. It means a lot to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah. So you've been riding your whole life, right, Brent?
Since before I could walk, yes.
Yeah. Can you can you tell me a little bit about your introduction to riding and what that was like?
Well, my grandpap had a bunch of horses, and he had a bunch of different ranges from little bitty Shetlands to bigger ponies to small full-grown horses to big full-grown horses. And so he had that opportunity for all of the grandkids to have the opportunity to ride and see if we liked it or not. And so our first riding experience was riding in Grandpap's lap in the saddle before we could walk. So he instilled the love of horses in me and gave me a lot of opportunities, and I sure appreciate him. He taught me more than I realized.
So, at what age were you when you started riding by yourself?
Probably four.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we let's see, the first cattle drive I remember going on riding by myself, I was five, and it was 10 miles. We did it twice a year. Thought everybody got to do that. Didn't realize how lucky I was. But so probably about four is the earliest I can remember riding by myself. And, we'd ride in Grandpap's, dry lots, and then we'd go out and ride with him while he's checking the cows.
And what was your favorite part of that cattle drive?
Oh, first was getting to be with Grandpap, because he was my hero. And then it was, feeling like you as a top hand, all right, even as a 5-year-old getting to ride all by yourself.
Yeah.
And then when it got pretty cold, there was one of the uncles would be driving along in a pickup. So uh, if it got pretty cold, the kids could sit in the pickup, warm up by the heater for a little bit,
Yeah.
and lead the horse out the window and then get back out there and get to it. But I tried not to go back into the pickup because I was too tough for that sissy stuff.
And you still are.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. But
It,
yeah, so it was, we grew up riding, and Grandpa would try to teach us some, and uh, we picked up some, and wished I would have tried harder to learn more from him, I think.
yeah.
But a bunch of it soaked in spite of me knowing it all.
So this is in Texas, correct?
Yes.
What part
Yeah,
of Texas?
we grew up in the panhandle of Texas. The nearest community to us was a huge city called Buddy. There's not even a population sign there. So uh, we were in the boonies,
Yeah.
and that's a good place to grow up, I think. It was for me anyway.
And I've been told that you actually have a Southern drawl, that this is your professional voice.
Well, we had pretty much a Texas twang growing up, and Kris kind of said, for people to really be able to understand you, you might need to tone that down a little bit. We grew up talking pretty hicky.
Yeah.
When he was starting to do clinics in the Midwest, every once in a while he would say something and people would just kind of go, "What?" And I would translate.
That's super funny. Well, it
Yeah,
was 10 years ago I learned what bobwar is
Yeah.
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 Well,
because I thought bobwar was a person, but then I found out it's actually fencing.
It's definitely fencing.
Definitely fencing. Yeah.
Yes.
So you grew up riding on a ranch.
Yes.
And then at what point did you decide you wanted to ride professionally?
Well, I always thought that I was going to work on the ranch. And my folks divorced when I was a freshman in high school, and we moved with my mom. And I had the chance to go to college. And I figured after college, I'd go back to work on the ranch. But I think it was my senior year when I figured out that little place was only going to support so many people, and they were already there.
Hmm.
And so it's like, I got to figure out a way to pay some bills. So I started my first colt when I was in the sixth grade. And I'm sure Grandpap put a couple of rides on him first because he was pretty easy, but it gave me a lot of confidence. And so it's like, well, there's a way that I can make some money. So, that's it was kind of one of those deals where unexpected change of what I thought was my plan forced you to try to figure some other way to make it go. So
And you started Colts professionally for about how many years?
a little over 20 years.
Okay, long, long time.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Uh, and I had I think it was a very neat experience. I learned so much from the horses. I wasn't just trying to teach them. It's like, what can I learn from you? Because I needed to learn to be a better rider, especially when I started getting a bunch of dangerous horses in. And felt like I was a little out of my league. It's like, man, I got to start studying a little bit more and really trying to learn from the horse. How can I help these troubled horses? And turns out most of it was people problems. So how can I help the person to quit doing what they did to cause these problems? And how can I present that in a way that they'll understand it and hear it? So that I thought, well, I just ride horses. I fixed it. See,
Mhm.
oh, but wait, it comes back with comes back with the same problem a couple weeks later, and I realized it was the person more than the horse. So that I never wanted to teach anything, but I kind of had to start teaching people a little bit how to quit doing what caused the issues that I was having to try to fix. So, and then I kind of eased into the clinic deal a little bit because I would go and watch horsemen, trying to learn more. I'd learn from the good, learn from the less than good horsemen, what to do, what to not do. And then started narrowing down that field quite a bit because I already know a lot of what not to do. I
Mhm.
don't need to go to pay someone to learn what to not do. I can do that well enough by myself. So there were some folks at some of the clinics that would watch me ride my colts in the mornings. And they said, well, you teach clinics too. I'm like, no, don't. Just ride horses. That's all I wanted to do. But a couple of them were pretty persistent in pestering me to get they wanted me to teach them a clinic, and they pestered me for a couple of years. And so finally I said, well, okay, I'll try one. And then word of mouth spread, and it's worked out pretty good. I've had the chance to help a lot of people and a lot of horses and met a lot of neat people in horses. It's been a lot of fun, especially for somebody who never wanted to teach anything.
I bet you learned a lot when you started teaching people and their horses about how to present things to each different person.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I'm still learning that. I don't think that's something that you ever perfect. So it's how, how does the person hear? If you've got a clinic with 10 or 15 people in there, each person hears differently. Each person has different interests anyway. And so they've got different issues going on with their horse. So how do I figure out how they hear so that I can present it in words that make sense to them? And a lot of that is by eavesdropping on conversations at the supper table and stuff. People that tell each other what is really important to them. They'll tell me what they think I want to hear. But I can hear what's really important to them. And then, okay, I'll use an analogy that'll help you hear by that. And yeah, but it's constantly trying to learn how to present things. And if I come back to a clinic the next year and people are still struggling with the same issues, well, then I think, okay, how I presented it last time didn't get through. So let me change my presentation to try to get that to make more sense so that they can work on it and get through it. So those are a couple of the ways that I work to try to learn to talk to people better where they can hear me just by listening to them first and seeing, did that make sense or not?
So you're saying spying works.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that because I'd be kicked out of the spy network if I said, you know, these small friend groups that we have, we don't want to get kicked out of them. So,
Well, and another thing that comes up at the clinics that's interesting to watch him navigate is, let's say somebody is really committed to doing a certain task a certain way, and it's really not the best deal for the horse. But they paid a lot of money to learn that habit and they're sticking with it.
Mhm.
How he gets them to let go of those ideas and experiment with something different is really interesting to watch.
Yeah, it sure is. I've been fascinated by that since I've met you, to watch somebody's uh, very strong convictions and how that isn't working, and how you approach that.
yeah, that can be tricky.
Mhm.
You don't want to just offend someone and then they won't hear anything you say.
Mhm.
And but there's a lot of different right ways to do anything.
Mhm.
So how can we try something different to see, well, maybe that'll work a little better instead of saying, no, you're wrong, don't do that.
Mhm.
Sometimes he'll say, okay, let's have you go ahead and do it the way you're doing it, and let's pay attention to the rhythm of the horse, his expression, watch the muscles in these parts of his body. Okay, so you got that. Now let's try it this other way and let's pay attention to those pieces again. What do you think is going to be more fitting to your horse? And then they're like, oh, well, okay, maybe I'll try it this other way.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you next, which is maybe a silly question, is how do you determine if something is a better deal for the horse or not?
Try to listen to the horse, as the horse will tell you. And it's, I wish that more people could truly be present when they're working with their horses, because a lot of times they're just thinking about the next thing they're going to be doing, or uh, they're just trying to boss their horse around rather than feeling of them and saying, what does this mean to you? Is that what I meant for it to mean? If it was, great. But if it wasn't, let me change my presentation so that maybe it makes a little more sense. So I try to see, where am I in relation to the horse? How do I need to move? How does it make sense to him, or does it not? The horse will let me know. Sometimes I'll put my students in the horse's shoes a little bit, because the horses don't speak English. And so I'll start talking Comanche to them. And most people don't understand Comanche. And so they give me a pretty blank look. And so then I'll go, okay, that's what your horse feels. Now let's try a different presentation then. If your horse doesn't understand what it is that you're asking, you need to ask it a different way. Change your presentation. We're supposed to be the superior species. So they say. I question that.
Hmm.
But they, them, the experts, they say we are. But the horses will figure stuff out pretty quick. But can we pay attention to them to figure out, what did that mean to them? And do I need to change my presentation? And then how do I change it? And then what did that mean to them? Am I on the right track now or not? And each horse will perceive things differently. I had, I think, a whole lot of experience with the different colts that I started, to get to ride a bunch of different horses, and the horses that we had on the ranch too, riding all day. You kind of gain some experience there. But working with all those different colts and the troubled horses, I had to pay attention to them, or else I was going to run the risk of getting hurt. And I would rather not get hurt. So um, I've, I've I've had some unique experiences, and I try to share those with folks. And um, the horse has been my best teacher, so I try real hard to pay attention to him.
I think one of the most valuable things I've learned from you guys is to present things differently to each horse. Because when I met you, I had learned that horses should respond a certain way, perform a certain way, and there was a checklist of things they had to do.
Right.
And you were the first person to say, if he's not getting it, present it differently. And that was such a worldview change for me.
Cool. Yeah.
How did you, I mean, I know you have a lot of experience with tricky horses, but is that just in your nature, or is that a lesson that you came across?
Well, I remember as a kid, always trying to, my best friends were the horses and our dogs. They were my best friends. And I always tried to treat them like they're my best friends, but to try to get to know them too. And then to see how can we get along. So maybe it has always been in my nature. I don't know, but I've tried real hard to hone that skill. And um, I think still the horses still are my best friends. So the um, young horses that we halter start every year give me a great opportunity to read the horse better and better, because Kris and I'll halter start usually roughly 300 horses between October and May. And most of them have been completely unhandled. And so they'll show you the purity, the true nature of the horse. Most people never get to see that. And so I try real hard to listen to them. What does this mean to you? How about this? How about this then? Okay, how about this? So we every week we get a whole new group of horses to learn from. So I feel pretty blessed.
Yeah, it's a very amazing and unique perspective that you guys get from the halter starting, because you see how horses truly behave and respond, whereas, as you're aware, there are so many ideas and opinions about what horses are and how they should learn and how they think, that you guys see the reality that most of us will never get to experience.
Yeah, we're pretty lucky that way. And a bunch of the ranch horses that we've ridden and that we've been around too, they're still pretty dang pure and they're amazing, but a lot of those people no one's ever heard of because they're just, doing their riding job. But there's some pretty good horsemen out there that no one's heard of. And we share ideas too whenever we're visiting with folks, whenever they drop their colts off or come back to pick them up. Or one of the ranches, I still run their colt start, and we share ideas with the cowboys there and with the ranch manager and the head trainer too.
We're lucky to live in a part of the country that can offer the horses the opportunity to grow up out on huge rangeland and never see a person.
Yeah.
I'm from the Midwest. They didn't have big ranches in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Any horse that was born was going to see people from day one and every day of his life. And they're developing thoughts and opinions about what people mean from the minute they're on the ground. And you never see a pure horse, even though people would think that, because in comparison, that was the purest they've been around. But it's interesting how much that affects what the horse becomes, those early, just walking past the pen.
It makes it very easy for people to form opinions about how horses behave and think, and they're not seeing a horse's behavior, they're seeing a horse's response to the human's behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing we talked about the other day was to see a lot of different bloodlines. Some people, even if they see horses that have grown up out on a pretty big ranch, maybe they've only got 2 studs on that ranch. And they've only seen those bloodlines, those mares, those studs, year after year after year. And so that's another piece of it, that because we get to see a whole lot of different bloodlines, it opens up um, the range of different types of what those horses are going to need from us, because the tendencies are all different from different bloodlines.
And there's a lot of tendencies that kind of run strong in a bloodline. And so, okay, how to navigate that to help them understand better, or what should I expect from them based on the several hundred of that same bloodline that we've worked with already. So it's that's always fascinating too. We could get off on a big tangent on that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fascinating topic is the genetic tendencies and then the environmental changes and which is
Yeah.
which and what is what.
Yeah,
It's
there
really interesting.
it is. There's some people that'll bring horses, say, oh, this mare's horses are always hard-headed or always this or that. And I'm like, well, let's see about that.
Mhm.
There was one ranch that they said, well, this horse is just this colt's just stupid.
Mm.
I think, I bet he's not.
That
We
means he's outsmarted you.
yeah, we named him Einstein,
Yeah.
Oh, funny.
and we said our job is to make sure he grows into that. And whenever we took the horse back, they looked at him as we unloaded. We haltered them all in the trailer and just let them off instead of just turning them out like we normally do. And I held on to him and worked him just a little bit before I let him go. And they're like, hey, he's pretty smart, isn't he? I get, I'll change my mind about that. And he became one of their best horses, which was pretty cool. So we took that as a personal challenge. We got to make sure they know this horse is smart, because he is.
Yeah.
He just maybe wasn't wanting to go along with him.
Well, that makes
So
me want to ask you two questions to follow up on that. The first one is how much do you think people's thoughts and opinions of a horse alter that horse's behavior? And the second one, before I forget, is how do you come up with all these yearlings' names?
well, coming up with the yearlings' names used to be real easy, but now it's, as we've gone through so many of them,
Yeah.
it's like we got to think, okay, what is something new that we haven't used as a theme? And there's sometimes music will be playing on our iPod
Huh?
while we're working, and it's like, okay, the next song that comes on is going to determine what the theme of these horses is going to be. And so we might name them after different characters in the song or who came on. Okay, we'll name them after each of the band members. Or we'll go, okay, today we're doing blues singers. Today we're doing cartoon characters. We're doing the Three Stooges. We're doing, you know, old slapstick comedy. So we
Okay.
try to come up with a lot of different names. And some of them, I think if the owners knew we were naming their horses that, they'd look at us and go, huh?
Do you tell the owners their names?
Do we tell the horse or do we tell the owners?
Owners.
Sometimes, if they ask. But
Sometimes they'll ask.
there are a few of the ranches that um, will keep their names. Is they'll say, okay, we believe that what a horse is named, it stays there. So what did you name them? And so, those ranches for sure we know, and we go, okay, we'll try to have a name that they'll want to keep. And
That's a lot of pressure.
it is a lot of pressure.
What was the last time I saw you guys, you had Rolling Stones themes. What
Yeah.
do you remember those?
Well, Ruby Tuesday
Tuesday.
was the horse that was in the tying
Okay.
video. I should re-release that. But yeah, we had named after the band members, and then Angie,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
some of the
You've come up with some great names. Like I don't even know how you can come up with those so frequently.
Yeah. And sometimes we'll think, okay, let's name them after something you'll see in Paladura Canyon.
Mhm.
Mhm.
We had a ranch that did they have 30 colts?
Yeah.
And we thought, okay, we're gonna name them after stuff we see in Paladura Canyon. And they kept those names, which was pretty cool. But anyway,
Gypsum, Hoodoo, Sage,
yeah.
a lot of names like that.
Cool. Very cool. Okay, what about how much people's thoughts about a horse affect their behavior?
I think sometimes people project that behavior on the horse, and sometimes it's like, this is how he's going to be. So I'm just going to, by gosh, I'm going to be forceful and, I'm not going to let him get away with anything. And so they push him into a box more or less, or they only see these things. And so in their mind, that's the horse's behavior, where that's really not, but that's all they see. So that question can go several different ways. But sometimes the way we treat the horse, that's what causes that behavior. But that's not their true nature usually. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. But I think we can help to change the way they perceive us by presenting things in a different manner. And I don't, it takes a lot of awareness to do that, but I don't think it's that hard to do it once you get started trying to present things in a different way. So can I make sure that door is open a little bit more? Can I get him a little more prepared before I ask him this? So yeah, I don't know if a person causes the behavior or if they just don't see anything else but that, and so they force him there. It's hard to say.
Well, and when a lot of people have a certain personality profile that they put their horse into,
Yeah,
you would like to ask them, okay, so that's what you think they are. What would you like them to be?
Mm.
And how did you get there? Instead of, well, this is what they are. So I always have to be firm and I always have to be this and I always have,
yeah.
it's like, well, what would you want them to be? And how do you guide them to become what's going to be better?
Mhm.
But they don't take it there. It's just like, this is the profile, end of story.
Yeah, because two people, as you guys know very well, can get very different personalities or behaviors,
Mhm,
whatever you want to call it, out of the same horse.
Sure,
mhm.
sure. Yeah, I try to listen to the horse and see where he's at. See how does this affect you? What does it mean to you? How can I change my presentation where it becomes more meaningful to you? And then you become more willing to go along with us. So, but yeah, that's a real tough question. And everyone you ask will probably give you a different answer on that because we each have different perceptions.
Yeah, I'm really curious about how you get to the bottom of the horse and figure out who that horse really is versus what I'm creating from it or expecting from it and how that presents in somebody else in that same horse.
I come in with no expectations. It's just, who are you? What does this mean to you? Is that what I meant for it to mean? If it was, great. If it wasn't, well, maybe I should try a different way. I'll change my presentation so that it makes more sense to you. But I try to figure out, who they are by how they perceive me and what I'm offering. So,
Well, and that question reminds me of when I first moved here and we were doing the halter starting, and I did not come with that kind of experience. Like I said, I wasn't around horses like that. So I would have, let's say, a hard time getting my hands on them for the first time. And I'd be like, okay, I really think mechanically, I think I'm doing everything correctly, but I'm nervous. And so, Brent, could you just let me see how you do it, because I'm looking for a mechanical difference. And he just walks up and he's like, everything is fabulous, and I will pet the like, what did
This is a very
so
familiar experience. Yeah.
I know. And it was a great way for me to learn, but it was frustrating, doggone it. Because I wanted it to be something mechanical that I could do different, and poof, then it would be great. And it just wasn't that way.
Yeah. I've had that experience every time I've been at your place where let's say like the backing area or trailer loading. I'm like, I'm gonna do every mechanical bit perfectly and it's gonna go right. And then I get in there and I'm like, uh-oh, it's not going well. And then Brent just poof, 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 and the horse is perfect. So it's a, it's a confidence thing of leading the horse through it along with mechanics. And what else would you say about that, Brent?
Um, Trying to figure out how to put it into words because that's hard. But and everybody has a different definition of what feel is. But I'm trying to feel down the rope. Where are they? What makes sense to them? What are they ready for? What are they not? And I'm constantly asking them questions like that. How's this? Can I do less? Can I do less? But still be clear. So I try to uh, I try to help grow their confidence by the way I present things. And then they start showing you, hey, I can do this. Watch this. I can do this. I can do this. And then they start really taking a lot of confidence in themselves and they want to show you how well they can do.
Are you talking
But
about the horses or the students?
the horses, but both, I guess. But the horses for sure is where I was going with that.
I know.
But trying to put that into words is really hard.
Yeah.
Um, Getting to handle you know, so many horses that are, untouched. It gives us a great opportunity to really learn how to feel of them.
Yeah, I don't know how many young horse classes of yours I've done, but I do remember the first time thinking I've handled enough young horses, so I have a good idea of
Yeah.
how this is going to go. And then the first day being like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then the second and the third and the fourth were like, I really, 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 really don't know what I'm doing. And it's just getting worse. And every horse, by the time you figure out 1 year's horse, the next year is totally different.
Yeah.
So the more horses you handle, the more you realize they're all so different that you
Mhm.
have to adjust yourself constantly. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
you guys have so much experience with that that you're really good at adjusting. Whereas most of us get to where we know our horse. This is the horse I ride, this is how he is, and this is how I'm gonna present this to this horse. And that just doesn't ever go well.
Right.
Well, and that's people, when they come to, let's say, a 3-day clinic, they look at it like I am looking, I am paying you for a 3-day clinic instead of I am paying you for 60 years and tens of thousands of horses worth of experience.
Yeah.
That's kind of a different thing. You can hire a computer guy
Yeah.
to come and push the right button and it takes him
Yeah.
2 seconds, but it's worth it. Because if you push the wrong button,
Yeah.
your life is over.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's really something to it because most of us don't handle the degree of horses you guys handle. And so we get very routined in our habits and how we think about horses.
We
Mhm.
do. And, I don't know anybody who halter starts as many colts as we do every year. And if you look back at our early yearling classes, it's way different now than it was then.
It's way
We're
different.
constantly learning, constantly growing, learning from the colts, learning from the students too.
We have a group of students who have been coming for a whole lot of years,
Mhm.
and
And they've come together
yeah, they
as a
come
group.
together as the same group.
Yeah.
And so it's so much fun to throw out ideas with people who you've spent 15 to 20 years with going through this stuff. And they're like, remember that horse way back when? You remember when that worked? It's like, no, I don't remember, but thank you.
One of my favorite things about that class, aside from everything, is how much you guys adjust every single year to make it easier for the horses.
Yeah.
And when I came to you guys first, like I said earlier, I thought horses had to learn stuff. You made them to check the checklist of stuff and they learn the stuff and they have to adjust. But you guys adjust to the horses so much, but the outcome is much better. The horses are so much gentler and so much calmer, so much quicker because you adjust to them.
Right. We let them teach us.
Yeah.
Well, and he, like, on the first catches, he halters them from a distance, the first thing isn't stand still so I can get the halter on you. Common sense would say stand still so I can put a halter on you,
Yeah.
but he does it a different way. And so that doesn't trigger a lot of the, I don't know about you, stay away from me stuff. They're curious. It's all about building curiosity. So he can get the noseband on and get the halter on, and they're curious.
Mhm.
Then he's directing them before the horse. He knows what the horse is going to do
Mhm.
at a certain point in the pen. And so before the horse does it, he's already blending in.
If you figure out their tendencies, then you can use their tendencies. And the tendencies that are less than desirable, then you can maybe stay a little bit ahead of those tendencies so they don't ever turn into something that could be negative.
But a lot of people are really rigid in their thinking about training of horses and that they think the horse has to adjust to us all the time. And
Yeah.
that like it almost like it has to be hard for the horse for it to be beneficial.
Yeah.
Well, riding is not easy, and to become a refined rider is very difficult. It's not an easy task. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of awareness. It takes a lot of saddle time or handling time, I should say, because sometimes folks want to be a refined horse person but not be able to ride. So to spend the time, but also to work to learn too, learn from other people what to do, what to not do, but also learn from the horse. How do I present this better? When I offer something, okay, can I do half that much next time and still get that? Now, let me cut that in half. Can I figure out how little it takes, but still be clear? Can I make sure that I offer them some place to go so they don't feel like they have no other option than to fight you? I always want to give them a place to go and then redirect that movement. So anyway, that it's to become a good horse person, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of introspection. You got to really check yourself. Am I in the right frame of mind today?
Mm.
If I'm not, how do I get myself there? Maybe I don't need to be working a horse today if I can't get myself emotionally in a good solid state, because I need to be there for the horse if I want them to be there for me. And that's a hard deal.
It's a big
But yeah, it is. But it's I think it's very important if you want to excel.
yeah.
And a lot of people are happy to just go through the motions. And it's like I'll get a little ride in and good enough. And that's okay. We each have different goals. And cool. But go to the depth of your belief system. What do you believe is possible? And what goals are you looking for? Work for them and set your goals high. Maybe you'll reach them and then you'll go, son, that's pretty good. I think if we can figure out how to be truly present when we're working our horses and to be connected with them in a, the lead rope is our physical connection when we're leading them. The reins and the saddle is our physical connections when we're riding them. But can we connect deeper than that? And each of us believes differently what is possible. So whatever you believe is possible, go to the depths of that belief system and work for it.
One of the things that I have learned from you also was just how powerful working a horse with a job can be toward developing your relationship with that horse, as well as helping another horse even more. And a lot of people, unfortunately, have gained a really distasteful look on using horses for work.
Right.
But what
Well,
I've learned from you is how special that can be. Can you talk about that a little bit?
that can be so special. Work is not a dirty word. I enjoy work. I think I always have. Growing up, we worked with our horses, riding, our family, we had a small ranch and a little feedlot also. And so you'd ride the pens, checking the health of the calves, doctoring them. And then we had, uh, so that would be about 2,500 head of calves in the feedlot. And then we had another 3,000 head or more out on pastures. And so we'd go check the pastures. Your job was to take care of the health of the cows, make sure they're staying in the pastures, make sure that they're healthy. And, your horse is your partner, not just your means of transportation. A, a horse can see where a calf is fixing to go before he goes there. If you'll let them and work with them, they know their job. They can figure it out way faster than we can figure it out. And uh, taking that to a whole different level of, some people showing and stuff in cutting and stuff. One of the colts we also started a few years ago just took fifth in the open division of the cutting fraternity,
That's so
which is way exciting. And that horse knows his job. And his first catch, I looked at Kris and said, this one could be pretty special right here.
Mhm.
And sure enough, he is. But working, giving our horses a job to do in the pens with the colts. We use our saddle horses a whole lot. And, I've learned more from, I think, my horse Cayman than I'd have from any human.
They
And
clearly love that job.
yeah,
Cayman, if we didn't catch him up when a new group of colts came in, he'd be by the gate and he'd be like, come on, come on, come on.
yeah.
How much more obvious can it be that he wants to participate? So,
Can you
we,
can you talk a little bit about what Cayman's job was in working the whole Healthler starts for anyone who doesn't know him?
Cayman he was special.
Mhm.
I've never seen a horse do that job as well as Cayman. And uh, what we'd use him for, several different things we'd use him for in the working with the colts. One, if you've got a horse that's really, really worried, he'll just bring him into the pen or bring him near and he'll settle the colt. He'd settle the pen. And so just his presence could help that. But if a horse is really nervous on first touches, of course, most of them are, well, we'd bring Cayman into the pen, and whether I'm on his back, and then having him touch the colt, and then Kris come in right behind where he's at.
we learned that from Cayman. When we just turn him loose in the pen. And I was trying to touch this colt, and of course, they're scared. They haven't been around people. And Cayman would just come in between me and the colt and stick his head in there and look at me like, go ahead, do it, go ahead. And so I'd pet him, and then he started doing the little peekaboo thing. He's who we learned it from.
Mhm. It'd be hard to believe if I hadn't seen it myself so many times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, and we used him a lot, and using Duck now, holding the horses for first trimmings and things like that, where if they get scared, they snuggle into the saddle horse rather than trying to run over whoever's holding them. So, little confidence boosters like that. But there was a horse that came in with a group. We had 15 come in, and as we were moving them to sort them and get ready to catch, one of them, I thought, is his eye puffy? And anyway, we started to sort, and it's like, his eye is puffy, and now both eyes are puffy. And then so I moved a few, came back to him, and his face was swelling up like a moose. And I thought, we may have a problem here. So we Cayman into the pen with him and took a couple of pictures and sent them to the vet. And they said, and this was in January, I think.
It was right after New Year's.
And so there are no rattlesnakes out. There were no marks on his face. And, now both eyes are almost swollen shut.
And his breathing is affected.
Yeah. And the vet said, give him some Benamine. it's probably got a spider bite. I'm like, there ain't no spiders out.
And this horse has never been around people, never been touched, never been haltered. Go ahead and hug.
I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be a challenge here. So by now, his both eyes are swollen completely shut, and so we snuggled Cayman into him, and I was able to halter him, and then lean down under Cayman's neck and give him an IV shot, and he held that colt still so that he could get his shot, and then that evening, the swelling went away. Never had any other problem, but we never did figure out what it was. But it had to have been a spider bite or something. But very strange deal. But his presence held that colt to where he trusted us enough, even though he couldn't see and hadn't had anything on his face, that he stood in there. And also, we had a horse one time come in, big horse. He was a Shire. He was a 7-year-old Shire, and he rode nice, but he was a pig on the ground. It was a 2,300-pound pig. And anyway, so we brought Cayman into the pen, and that horse, as we started to bring Cayman in, that horse just started puffing up and getting bigger and bigger, and Cayman just stepped in through the gate and just looked at him. And this 7-year-old Shire started getting small and started doing the baby mouth clacking, and it was done. And Cayman didn't have to beat him up or jump in the middle of him. And Cayman is not, or was not, a 2,300-pound horse. He was maybe 1,200 pounds, but he has a presence that was way bigger than what he was. He didn't have to get in the middle of a fight with a horse for the horse to say, "I'm good."
And he also was not afraid to tell me when I was making mistakes. Like I said, we'd have him loose in the pen, and I'm trying to get early touches. And with him there, it's like, okay, I can touch this horse. I can do this. I can do this. And I'd start to do a little too much, and he'd be like, take his head and just push me away and look at me like, you know better. Just back off a minute. Give this colt a minute. It's like he'll let you know. He'll let the horse know. He'll let the person know.
Yep.
If he was in the pen, it was his pen.
Yeah,
There were a lot of cool. Oh, sorry, Brent. Go ahead.
There's a lot of times with just me and Kris working a bunch of yearlings, and we'd have them coming along pretty good, and so Kris would be doing touches with them and snuggles and pads and such, and I'd have Cayman in the pen with me and just put the colt's lead rope over his neck and trim him. And if they started to get worried, Cayman would just kind of look at him and go, "Hey, stand still."
Mm-hmm.
And they'd go, "Okay." So it was, he was special.
That was our dream, is to be able to clone him.
Yeah, that would be so
Because
cool.
with horses, a lot of the cellular memory transfers to the copy.
Mm.
And so the question is, how much does?
Yeah.
And to have a horse that he spent 20 plus years with, copied, and go through it again.
Maybe 30 years.
30 years. Time flies.
Yeah, one of our vets is at the leading edge of cloning.
Well,
And
make sure you
said,
clone yourselves too.
Yeah.
Can't do people.
Can't do primates.
But anyway,
But if we win the lottery, we will be cloning Cayman. We did save some.
Yeah, he talked us into saving a skin cell sample. But anyway, Cayman was special, and we sure miss him. We had to say goodbye to him last year.
If only people could meet a horse like Cayman, I think it would be life-changing.
When he finally decided he wasn't wanting to work anymore, because we'd be working colts and he'd be in the pen next door, and he'd come over and say, "You want to come in?" He'd say, "Yeah, I want to come in." And when we looked at him and invited him in, he said, "No, I'm good. I'm good." Then we knew it was getting real close, and it was the next month that we had to say goodbye. He just said, "It's just too much anymore." But Duck is now doing a pretty good job too, and I'm real pleased with what he's offering the colts. But he learned a lot from Cayman as well. And we've got a couple more that we'll be looking to be bringing up to learn that job. But
It's been very fun to watch Duck's confidence and ability to read things change over the years you've been
yeah,
using him for that job. I think he's a spectacular horse anyway, but it's been very fun to watch him change.
thanks. Yeah, he's a fun horse to ride for sure. And yeah, he's come a long ways, and he's allowed to give a lot of input, and he's got good judgment. So
When we first started using him, we'd bring him into the pen to focus on a colt, and the neighbors got cattle. He always worked cattle before, and he'd hear them and he'd be like, "Oh, but the cows are over there. Let's go over there. Let's go." You're like, "No, in
yeah,
here with this little one."
yeah,
That's so funny.
Yeah.
yeah, to try to put into words, how special it can be with a horse that loves his job and
Yeah.
is good at it. You can't put it into words completely, but giving a horse a job to do, I think that helps keep them from being bored,
Mm.
and it gives them uh, a different way to interact with a person by working together with them. And like working on the ranch, we'd usually ride a couple of horses a day. You'd spend, half a day with them, and you got to know them pretty good. And a day is daylight till after dark, so it's not just 9 to 5. So the and in all kinds of weather too. So the nastiest weather, that's when the cows get out. So that's when you really need your equine partner to help you out. So, but to try to put into words how special it can be, it's hard. We had a horse that I liked to ride in the feedlot a lot. That I swear she could pick out a sick cow. Bessie was a sharp little horse, and you could point her towards the cow, and she'd go, "Let's take him to the gate. I got him. Get out of my way. Let me do it."
Mhm.
But anyway, yeah, they're pretty cool.
It's pretty spectacular because they have better judgment of the environment and other animals than we ever will.
Yes, yes. And if we can learn that from them instead of thinking we got to try to teach them all the time, what can we learn? Either how to do something better or how to be out of their way so they can do it better rather than just trying to boss them around all the time.
Yeah.
Uh, Caught in a stampede one time. We were helping the neighbor gather cows and got them rounded up and pushing them in. The pasture was a section, and that's we had a portable panels set up into a pen to catch them in. Got them up in there, and they turned around and came right back over the top of us. The wind was blowing real bad, and so we were facing into the wind. So there was a lot of dust and stuff. And Kris was like, "This is a stampede." I'm like, "Yes, it is."
Yeah. And I'm going, city girl, I don't do stampedes.
She
That
goes,
wasn't in the contract, right?
Yeah.
"What do I do?" And she was riding a little mare named Foxy. It was
Huh?
Cayman's sister. And I said, "Just hold your reins up snug, so they're not draped down. Hold them up snug so a cow doesn't get stuck through them. And then just trust your horse. Let her work. She knows her job," because you couldn't see. And anyway, then so she did. And boy, Foxy was working those cows, trying to hold them. And then finally, we weren't going to be able to hold them. I said, "Just turn and go with the cows. We'll have to gather them again. We're losing them." But it's like, trust your horse and sit deep. Make sure you stay in that saddle.
That's good life advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was an interesting moment. And then whenever we brought him back in and got the gate shut and then shipped him, and Kris looked at me, she goes, "That was pretty intense." That was exhilarating. Golly.
It was fun.
Yeah.
But with
Yeah.
all the blowing dirt, you couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're just riding blind.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, here we go. This is what a cutting horse feels like because she was trying to keep every cow.
That's
Yeah.
probably not a time to start telling your horse what to do then, huh?
Oh, no,
No.
that's, and you tell me that horse didn't love her job. Oh boy,
Oh man.
she was all about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is an experience I will likely never have.
Yeah.
We can set that up for you if you want.
You
We'll
could
put
do
you
like
on
a
any day.
tourist experiences, vacations,
Yeah.
Sure.
stampeding.
Just make sure that liability form is signed.
Yep,
Oh man.
I could do that. That
Yeah.
is, yeah, it's really amazing because I think so many people come into working horses in jobs thinking that they're telling the horse how to do everything. But
Mhm.
when you do it enough times, as you guys do, you learn the horse's input is often better than yours.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Who understands like working the colts?
Yeah.
Who understands the colts better than another horse?
Yeah.
I think we understand them pretty good, but not nearly as well as another horse does. They're the same species, and they have a different form of communication than we really truly understand. They understand better than we do what that horse needs. And how can we learn from them? But yeah, a good cow horse, a good jumping horse, set them to the jump, get them lined out, and get out of their way so that they can make the jump instead of you messing up their strides. But yeah, horses can be bred specifically for, these different things. Your dressage horses have these type of moves. And once you get that lined out, get out of their way and let them do those moves. Show them where you want it done at, and then leave them alone and enjoy that ride. Uh,
More life
yeah,
advice.
yeah. We could learn a lot from our horses.
We could. Yeah, we could.
So
Um, I could keep you guys forever selfishly, but I know you're very busy. So I'll ask you one last question on that vein before we go, and that is, what do you think the most beneficial part of your horse class is for people? What do they learn the most?
I think a couple of things. The true nature of the horse. What is the true nature of the horse? Because when a horse comes in pure, they show you. If a horse has been handled a lot, eh, you know, they get dulled and they don't show you all their true instincts, the true nature. So I think the purity of those colts, that's that's one of the things you really want people to see and learn. And how little does it take? How light is light? Man, it's lighter than we can imagine.
Mm.
But also to do some introspection too. What can I find out about myself working with this young horse? That those two things I think are the biggest pieces that I wish everyone would take away from that.
Well, you've done the class. Can we turn that question back to you?
Yeah. Uh,
Ooh, yeah,
I have learned so much about my own emotional state when things don't go the way you wanted to.
yeah,
That's
Mhm.
very humbling. It was very humbling and also very motivating and encouraging both at the same time because when you make a mistake or things start getting faster than you expected, um, you learn how you respond in those moments. You shut down or you get embarrassed or you get defensive or um, you worry that all these people are looking at you and seeing you make mistakes and that kind of thing. And I have learned because of your class more and more how to get out of my head and focus on what's happening and
yeah.
forget all those things. And
Mhm.
that has changed my life so much. especially in the profession of teaching or riding horses for the public.
Right.
That's been one of the biggest things. But the biggest and most important thing I think has been seeing horses differently forever, seeing them
Yeah.
as they really are.
Cool. But mistakes, we're all going to make mistakes.
Mhm.
Every single one of us, you go to any gathering where there's horse people there.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter if it's a clinic or you just out riding or whatever. Every single one of us will make some mistakes. What do we learn from that mistake?
Mhm.
Then it was worthwhile making. Don't just keep making the same mistakes over and over again. But I think one of the biggest pieces of being a good horse person is to stay humble.
Mhm.
If you stay humble, then you can continue to learn. And you don't have to worry about being embarrassed when you make a mistake because, hey, I made a mistake, gosh, and here's what I learned from that.
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
know,
I think it was the first 6 times I came out. Every time I was like, this time I won't make mistakes. This is the time. This is the time where I'll finally not do the things that I did last time. And it was only the last couple classes that I did where I was like, you know what? It's not the end of the world. Everybody's making mistakes. I'll just do my best and I probably won't die if I make a mistake.
yeah, shoot, we make mistakes every time too.
Yeah.
And then, how do you recover? How do you regroup? And then maybe don't make that one again.
Well,
Some of
I do, but you don't.
no, but but yeah, I think stay humble is I've been asked a few times, what advice would you give to a young horse professional?
Mhm.
Just stay humble.
Mhm.
Because if you're not, the horse will humble you pretty quick. But also make sure it doesn't take the fun out of it too, if you're doing it for a living.
Mhm.
So a lot of times people start doing it for a living and then all of a sudden it's not fun anymore. And now they hate their job and they didn't do themselves any good or the horse any good. So where do you find that balance in there? And we feel it's pretty dang lucky. Every day is kind of like Christmas to us. And the only regret I have is there's not quite enough hours in a day to get all my horses ridden. But I'll get to them one of these days. But we sure have a lot of fun with the colts that we have in and have a lot of fun in the clinics too. Meet a lot of people, a lot of really neat horses, and what more could you ask for?
You could ask for chocolate chip ice cream.
That's a really good thing to ask for. And we don't have any in the freezer. Put
Add
that on the
chocolate chip
list.
ice cream to my shop.
Yeah.
My kids figured out how to do that. I think I told you guys. They talked to Siri on my
Oh,
phone and they're like, add ice cream to my shopping list.
that's good.
But they haven't figured out how to press the button, so it
Yeah.
doesn't work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't have to do it then.
Nope. If it's not on the list, I don't buy
Yeah,
it.
that's fine. Anyway,
Well, thank you guys for your time. It was a huge honor to sit down with you. I had a lot of fun.
thanks.
Yes.
Me too. I'm not a very eloquent speaker,
Oh, sure.
and I'm not comfortable
With
doing interviews and stuff.
the whole
So,
computer thing.
but anyway, I enjoyed it too.
Well, that
Thank you.
makes it even more special, and I appreciate it even more.
Yeah,
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Brent and Kris. I enjoyed this thoroughly, and I will see you both as soon as I can.
we look
Okay.
forward to it. We appreciate you too.
Okay, bye, guys.
Bye-bye.